I don't exactly know why I'm writing this, but now that the events are over and done and I've moved on, maybe it will help someone. In February 2018, I, 30M, discovered my 30F wife's affair after we had been married for 5 years. I had a contract job that involved a lot of travel at times but also allowed me to work from home when I was back. My wife had a very well-paying job as a director of a technical sales firm. We had what I would describe as a really good marriage, although things had gotten a bit strained from my being away on work trips and her working longer and longer hours. Backstory: I met my wife, now ex, 5 years ago, at a mutual friend's barbecue. We struck up a conversation and had instant chemistry, and quite honestly, I thought it was unbelievable being with such a beautiful and well-spoken woman. Somehow, she liked me for my rough around the edges persona. After dating for a few weeks, we couldn't get enough of each other, and the clothes just flew off when we would meet at each other's apartments. We finally tied the knot after dating for 18 months, and moved into a big apartment, while saving for a house. After the first 3 years of marriage, things started changing. I still was crazy about her, but I noticed she would start arguments about little things, and she would get angry when I would bring up all the late hours and the work outings that had been more and more frequent. She would say it's part of paying the dues since she had been climbing the corporate ladder, or at least that was her excuse. She told me I had no right to question her since I was gone for weeks at a time myself. I had told her I could certainly manage to reduce my travel hours and had actually only been going on trips maybe 3 to 4 days, every 5 weeks or so. These arguments were very circular and had a resolution. As I look back, I had no idea my wife was in the midst of an affair. I would have never suspected a thing, except for her continued late work hours and our dwindling bed life. I just attributed this to her being tired from work. However, my ego had taken a beating from being turned down frequently when trying to initiate closeness. I didn't see the secretive texting that I read about, but then again, she had a company cell phone and she could have been using it since she spent a lot of time in our spare bedroom that she would use as a home office. It was around September of 2017 when Kathy started coming home after work, and then headed off to a work engagement for the evening. This went from 1 evening a week to more than 3 evenings a week. I'm not that jealous by nature, but there is no way she would go unnoticed, and I know she would have to fend off some of the men at her office. She only seemed to be interested in work, but she was working with more male executives than females. My first suspicion of her cheating occurred a month before D-Day. She had stopped off at the store before coming home. She asked me to help with the groceries. While I was grabbing a couple of really big ones to the back seat of her car, I noticed something pink glinting from just underneath the front passenger's seat. It was one of my wife's bras. I recognized it as she wanted the ones from a particular apparel store. In retrospect, I now realize the reason for the red flag with the bra. When she gets in the mood, she always takes off her bra first, from underneath her clothes. I don't know exactly why, but I instantly just had a sinking feeling in my gut when I saw this. I could not rationalize what her bra was doing under the seat. I just left it there under the seat. It almost made me sick, and my heart must have been racing like crazy, because when I returned to the kitchen with the bags, Kathy asked if I was okay, and that I looked like I had seen a ghost. I just brushed her comment off. I tried my best not to look angry or betrayed, but it took all I had to hide my feelings. That evening and the next, I decided to see if I could find out if she was involved with someone or not. I started thinking about all the clues I was missing. I had no proof except for the bra incident. We live in a fairly large city and her work is in a downtown office building. I kind of took my focus off of the affair idea for a bit and decided maybe I should give her more attention. One Friday after work, I made a nice dinner, set up the dining table with nice plates, silverware, and candles. I bought a nice bottle of wine and a bouquet of roses. She came breezing in after work as usual. I pointed out the dinner and everything I had prepared. She gave me a sad smile and told me she was sorry, but she had plans to meet up with her coworkers tonight at a local hangout. She said she could grab a quick bite with me before she left, but had to jump in the shower first. I think my insides flipped on me and I became completely speechless. I won't tell you what kind of rage I was feeling at that point, but I had finally had enough. While she was in the shower, I grabbed my company cell phone and planted it in her back seat. I had been thinking of this lately as a way I could track her location with my phone. I went in and dumped the meal in the trash along with the flowers. She came back after her shower, dressed up and looking great as usual. She said, "Okay, let's eat." I told her never mind, go out with her friends. She looked at me strangely and asked if I was mad. I said I'm disappointed that you never want to do anything together. She became angry and told me to quit acting like a child and that's something snarky about having a short fuse. I stood there, letting all this sink in, and said, "Foolish me, I thought you'd like to spend the evening together, for once." She just smirked at me and left in a huff. I took out my other phone and started tracking her work phone. I saw her stop about 20 minutes away at the bar that she frequents with her work buddies. I decided to head out and locate her car. Sure enough, there it was in the parking lot of the bar. I sat across the street in my car waiting to see if I could see her. I felt so unlike myself, like a stalker. But I rationalized I needed to at least satisfy my anxiety about her whereabouts. About an hour after I arrive, I see her coming out of the bar with a man. He looks like one of the execs I've seen from her work. He grabs her and pulls her close and kisses her. My stomach went into knots. My body went completely numb. They head over to another car and get in together. I do my best to follow them as the car pulls out. They travel about 10 minutes away to, you guessed it, a hotel. I pull over on the street next to the hotel. I watch as they get out and head hand in hand into the hotel. I've seen enough. I'm an idiot. I start banging my fist on the steering wheel. That's it. Something inside me went completely blank, and I'm not sure if I blacked out or had an out-of-body experience. When I recovered myself, I decided I needed a drink. Now, this is when my life took a new direction that I would have never guessed. I just started driving out of town, juicing everything I had just witnessed, and I hate to say, crying with rage. I headed towards the outskirts of town, about 30 miles. I find a nice little bar and pull in. I find a seat at the bar and order a drink. I must have looked like I had passed away because the bartender, female, mentioned that I looked like someone took the wind out of my sails. I half smiled and said you could say that. A guy takes a stool next to me and starts up a conversation. I'm not in much of a mood to talk, but something about this guy just made me feel comfortable. We start talking, and after a while, the subject of my wife cheating just tumbles out of my mind. How I just want to leave her and forget her. He looks at me and slaps me on the back. He says, "Buddy, you are not alone there. Happened to me a few years ago." I believe that sometimes, these things happen for a reason. And let me tell you, your life can now change either for the better or the worse, it's entirely up to you at this point. Something about him saying this shook me out of my glum mood. I mean, I know I'm hurting, but I have always been able to see things logically, and he is so right. Now we introduce each other. His name is Ray. He is kind of a country guy but is just the sort of salt-of-the-earth type that I respect. He asks me when I'm going to move out. I guess it never occurred to me to even think that far ahead. I know I don't want to be around this woman anymore, and I do have this fight or flight coursing through me. Ray says, "I feel very sympathetic to your situation and have an idea. If it comes to it, and you feel like you need to leave at some point, I've got a travel trailer sitting on my property. It's not great and it could use a bit of fixing up. Why don't you come out and check it out and see if you could see yourself living in something like that, temporarily at least? I'll make you a great deal on it. I even have a nice piece of property that you could park it on. You would be doing me a favor to keep an eye on it for me. It might do you some good to get away from your situation." Just a thought. It took me a minute to register his idea. The bartender had been overhearing the conversation and smiles. "Hell, honey," she says, "if I could have escaped my crazy ex-husband years ago, I would have jumped at the chance to go live in his trailer, anything to just get my head on straight. I feel like I have stumbled into the twilight zone, but maybe this is exactly what I need." I tell Ray, "Yes, I'll think about it and maybe check it out." We parted ways after a bit, and made plans to meet at his place in a few days. I started to feel like I have a little bit of perspective and a chance for getting out of what I believe is a nightmare, mixed in with a heavy heartache. One thing is for certain, there is no way I'll ever want to be with my wife again. Cheating is such a vile thing to me and has always been the one thing that I believe I would never tolerate. I got home after Kathy that night and sat on the couch. Kathy came out and asked me where I'd been. I turned to her and asked her where she had been. She says, I went to grab drinks. I asked her point blank, are you having an affair? She looks a little startled but regains her composure and says no, why would you ask me that? I told her I heard she may be involved with someone from work. Does she ask who told you that? I tell her someone that I know but would not divulge the name. She just tells me you are being ridiculous and that I'm drunk and delusional. And asks me where I have been. I tell her out to a bar, to have some drinks with friends. She just stares at me, wanting to ask me more, but just heads back to our bedroom and goes back to bed. I decided to sleep on the couch since I now have confirmation that she has been lying for months to me. I didn't sleep at all and started picturing her with this guy in bed, and I'm disgusted and hurt and feeling sorry for myself. However, I start thinking about Ray's trailer. It is almost a revelation, and the idea of it just made me feel better. I must have something wrong with me, but with the pain I was in, the fight or flight mode just instinctively kicked in, and the flight part won me over. The next morning, we don't speak much and go about the weekend as if nothing had happened. A few days later, I made plans to meet up with Ray. I met up at Ray's place. He owns a nice ranch and the trailer is actually really nice, about 26 foot and has all the necessities one needs to live in it. I had traveled with some friends and one back in college, during a spring break and really enjoyed it. I make Ray an offer on it, and he agrees to the price. I practically steal it from him. He gives me directions to his ranch property and I drive over to check it out. It is beautiful. Full of trees, scrub brush, and it looks like nearby hiking and biking trails are bordering it. It's near the foothills of some mountains and Ray has a small shack on a hill overlooking the property, with water and electricity for the trailer available. Ray will pull the travel trailer to the site and set it up for me. I tried to get Kathy to come clean during the next few weeks and all I get is gaslighting. I even point blank tell her that if I find out she is cheating, there is no going back. This has the opposite effect of driving her deeper into her affair fog and blistering me in denials. The denial is so bad, it almost made me laugh. I have no physical proof of her cheating and kick myself for not at least taking some photos of the two of them. As I go through this mental agony, I conclude that I want out of this marriage. Rather than let Kathy know how I feel about things now, I just start making plans. I started stealthily taking my belongings out of the apartment while she was at work, and moving them over to the trailer. This at least makes me feel like I'm taking action. I did notice a change in Kathy during this time and has been acting nicely around me. But in my mind, too little, too late. As she continued her little company outings after work, I decided I too needed a break. As she was heading out for the evening, I also got dressed around the same time. She looked at me and asked where I was going. I just said I was meeting up with some friends. She started to ask, and I just told her she didn't know them and she wouldn't enjoy all the shop talk. This is exactly what she would tell me when I would ask if I could join her at one of her office outings. She kind of had a hurt look on her face and said, "Okay, have a nice time." I said I definitely would. Between working on the trailer and meeting up with Ray at the bar, I have started to make more friends. It has led to some fun times with a great group of Ray's friends and family. And in case anyone asks, I decided I would moderate my drinking, so I don't develop any bad habits. It would be so easy to drown myself in pity. About this time frame, Kathy tells me she has to go on a trip for work the following week. I ask her who is all going and she tells me the executive team and some department heads. I just look at her and tell her I hope she has a really great time with her boyfriend. I kind of wish I hadn't said that. It started a lot of arguing back and forth. In a lot of ways, I wish I knew more about her AP, but as Ray put it to me, in the long run, it doesn't matter who the other guy is, it only matters that she decided to step out on you. She burned down the marriage, she can own it, or deny it, but facts are facts, brother. Damn, Ray should write this stuff down and publish it for the betrayed. Her work trip provided me with the opportunity to move the rest of my stuff out completely, so after Kathy left for her trip, I gathered everything I had left of any value and put it in my vehicle. I'm not taking any furniture or the like, so it's just clothes, and work computers and equipment. Before I left, I had written a note that I was going to leave for her, but after rereading it, I decided I would just make it simple. I grabbed a piece of paper and wrote, "I hope it was worth it." I placed my wedding ring on top of the note sitting on the kitchen table. I felt a huge weight come off of me. I felt free, no more hiding the truth. I know I will have some baggage to deal with, and some hurt to get over, but I have time to heal now. I just need some space and need to get her out of my life as quietly and quickly as possible. I'm not proud that I never confronted her more or pulled a confession out of her. I never got to yell and scream and curse her after confessing. I had concluded in my mind that she didn't deserve me, she disrespected everything we had. Our plans are history. We were saving for a really great house, a really hill that is gone now. No going back. I don't owe her a damn thing. She can deal with the fallout. Update. Aftermath. I didn't have an agenda at all. I didn't contact a lawyer or anything. I just wanted to get some clarity. I enjoyed my new trailer, and the mountainous air was exactly what I needed. In the following week, I took up running again, and it felt great to be alive. I never answered any of Kathy's texts while she was away. There wasn't much to respond to. They were just highlights, like, "We just landed, we are having a team dinner," etc. She did send a few "Where are you?" and "Let me hear from you," etc. The day she returned home, my phone blew up. She texted me incessantly, each tried calling me constantly. After the first day, her mother tried calling me. There's only my dad left on my family side, and we aren't close, so she didn't try to get him involved. After the first few crying messages, I never bothered to listen to the rest of her voicemails. Her texts consisted of, "What is this? We need to talk. I don't know what you think you know, but nothing is going on. I'm not involved with anyone. I'm not having an affair." After a week of not responding, she finally leaves me a text saying, "I'm sorry, things got out of hand. I was involved with someone at work, but it meant nothing. I got caught up in my work and you were gone a lot, and I just made a mistake. I was going to end it." A mistake? This was the confession I had been seeking all along. For some reason, it just made me dislike her even more. Why couldn't she be honest? This wasn't the woman I had dreamed of building a future together. And mistakes don't last for 6 to 8 months or a year. At one point her pleading for me to come back and work on the marriage became pathetic. She quit bothering me for a couple of weeks. I still refused to answer her. I did not want her to pry anything out of me where I was living. I did not want this woman ruining my sanctuary. Then one day, she started sending me angry texts like, "You are a coward. You won't talk to me. You don't care about us. Please come home so we can talk. Where are you? I can come to you. Damn it, Paul, please, let's talk and fix things." I don't remember all the messages, but they all seem to be excuses and very little in the way of apologies. I let it all go in one ear and out the other. I finally changed my cell phone number. Edit. June 2018. Kathy sent me an email telling me she had retained a lawyer and was filing for divorce. I sent her a reply that said, "Okay, sounds good." This resulted in a flurry of emails demanding I come to see her, and so forth. She realized this wouldn't get her anywhere, and after a while, she just wrote that if I agreed to an uncontested divorce, she wouldn't bother me anymore. I agreed, and several months later, finally, I was truly a free man. I never had to see her after I left our apartment. No closure for either of us, but it seemed like that was more important to her than to me. For a few months, I did think of her sometimes, and yes, the pain would appear out of nowhere, like if I heard a song come on the radio that we used to listen to, etc. But eventually, I just stopped thinking about her. Update. Well, I am officially divorced. Things are really good now. I met a great girl. I was out on a run on the trail just down the hill from where I live. I helped her change a flat tire and we really hit it off. She is amazing and cute as hell, though a few years younger than me. She loves my lifestyle and calls me her mountain man. I'm in no hurry to get serious, but I'm not about to give up on women completely. I'm still up here in the trailer. I have no plans to change anytime soon, and I've simplified my life quite a bit. I love the outdoors. It helped me get over my ex-wife, the heartache, everything. I know everyone handles these things differently. I was lucky to not have children yet and was only into my 3rd year of marriage, so I think I did what was right for me. You don't have to live your life with a cheater. If something like this happens to you, please, just don't dwell on it, just move on with your life. It gets better after you work on yourself. I wish everyone the best life they can have. I came back into town this past weekend to grab a few groceries and went to grab a coffee in the place I usually go to, as well as work on some documents I needed to fill out for work, using their free internet. After finishing up, I left the coffee shop. While I'm walking towards my truck, I hear someone yell, "Paul?" I look across the street and oh crap, there's Kathy, my ex, waving at me. Armageddon had finally happened. I stood there in shock. She runs across the street and approaches me and reaches out to me, expecting a hug, and I instinctively hold my arms out with palms out, and she stops. She looks at me really hurt. She then says, "Paul, I have been looking for you. I heard you moved out here and wanted to see you. Can we talk?" I feel like a trapped animal, guys, I really did. So I relented and said, "Okay, let's find a table or something and we can talk for a minute." She asks if we can go to my place, and I just flat out said no. She follows me down to a bench outside a little shop at the end of the block. She starts by saying how much I've changed and how she loves my new look, my beard, blah, blah. She liked how my physique had changed, how I looked so fit. She puts on a good act, and guys, she looked hot. She had on these little white shorts and a tank top and her hair in a ponytail like I used to like. My radar was on high alert and I could tell she was really turning on the sex appeal. I had to really rein myself in here and see where this was going. She starts out by apologizing about the whole affair thing. She says karma really hit her hard after I left. Her company learned of her affair and basically made things so unpleasant that she quit. Her AP, who had a fiancé at the time, got a reprimand and was moved to another position within the company. He blamed her for his having to move and she retaliated by telling his fiancé everything, which resulted in them breaking up. She lowered her head a little and started crying. I just sat there looking around, not having anything to say. She straightened up and stared at me for a bit. I asked her what she wanted from me. She wanted to tell me that she never intended to start an affair, that she felt like she was drawn in by all the politics and positioning in the company, and thought the AP really manipulated her with his charisma and power within the company, and that she stupidly thought she was using him as much as he was using her. She was going to come clean with me, especially after I accused her of having an affair. She hated herself during that time, and the after-work drinking was her attempt to medicate from the guilt. That right after I left her, she felt so foolish, so alone, like her heart just imploded with loss. She immediately broke things off with her AP. She felt that since I wouldn't contact her or talk to her, that she had to find me and see if she could make things right for us and if we could start over again. She knows we are divorced, but maybe we could have a clean slate. I just stared at her. I let her have it. I'm paraphrasing the conversation, but here it is. How dare you think you can just come out here and think you can just wipe away all the crap you caused? I'm to forgive everything you did to ruin our marriage. I told you before, if you cheated on me, we were through. There is no forgiveness, there is no reboot of this relationship. You destroyed it. You destroyed what we had the minute you stepped out on me. How stupid do you think I am? I followed you one night and saw you go into a hotel together, do you know that? I then realized that I had been raising my voice and people were starting to notice. She started to sob. She grabbed my arm. I let her cry on my shoulder a little, before nudging her away. She looked up at me. I deserve all this, I know I do. Can you at least let me take you to dinner or something? I don't want to leave, I want to talk more. I want to make sure we have everything out in the open. I need time with you that you didn't give me before. Please, Paul, I know you may not want to hear this, but I love you so much. I didn't know how much I loved you until you left me and broke me. And I broke you just as bad. I can't forgive myself, I don't want to forgive myself, until the day I die. She started hyperventilating and sobbing so bad that I pulled her up and hugged her. I know. I felt like that was the only thing I could do to maybe calm her down. At that moment I realized I did actually break her heart, like she broke mine. I started walking with her, and then found a nice quiet path to walk on, and things settled down a bit. I then asked her how she found me and did she hire a PI or something. She laughed a little and said no, she thought about it though. She ran into Stacy a couple weeks ago, and she asked her how things were going. Stacy let it slip that she saw me. Kathy made her spill every single detail. Stacy didn't want to tell her because I told her not to. But she wouldn't let her go until she did. But all she really knew was that she saw me here in town and that I lived somewhere in the vicinity. So she started coming here on her days off to see if she could find me. She really blushed when she said that. I kind of chuckled that damn Stacy can't keep her trap shut. So we did go to dinner. We found a nice little place with a patio. I made sure we didn't drink anything. I didn't want any excuse for her to soften me up or claim she was too drunk to drive back. We actually had a good talk. Afterwards, I walked her to her car. She wanted to stay and pressed me hard on it and wouldn't relent. She hadn't been with anybody else since I left, and swore up and down I was the only one she wanted. I told her no, it's still way too soon for me to go down that road. She begged to see me again, but I was non-committal. I gave her my new email address, but that was it. She wanted my phone number, but I told her no, you'll just blow it up with texts and calls. She cried about that one. She said she would be back in town next weekend if I was interested. I didn't say anything to that. She said she will email me and tell me all the details of when and where. Before she left, I asked her point blank if she would forgive me if I had done the cheating. She sat there thinking and she said, yes, she would in time, but only if we saw a marriage counselor or if we could work through the healing process with lots of talking and maybe even a binding agreement. I said, okay, maybe I could do that 5 to 10 years from now. She said if that's what it would take she would wait. She then took my hands in hers, looked me in the eye and said something that really surprised me. She said, Paul, I will always love you and will do anything to prove it. At that she laughed. I'm still so shook by that, she said it with such conviction. I still can't see myself back with her. I feel better though. Right now, I can't even see her as an FWB, maybe a friend, but damn I just don't know if we could ever work out again. Don't call me a chump, because second chances are rare in my book. I went home and had a nice long run and a few beers, and felt I was in a good place now. Can someone guarantee me that she wouldn't ruin that? I don't know, I just don't know. It's too fresh on my mind, but I have the luxury of time to sort all this out and get some perspective.